why I always tell people if they're going to work with me, stop reading books, stop watching YouTube videos, spiritual videos. Oh my word, there's so much misinformation out there that you're going to make your work so much harder than it has to be. You know, come open, come willing to challenge all the things you've ever believed to be true, and come from the space where you're teachable and you can just give yourself over to the process, trusting that the guide has your very best interest at heart. Always, 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 regardless of what it looks like. Because sometimes it might not look like that, but that's always what the guide has, our focal point is always what's in your best interest. So understand that and just give yourself over to it. Trust it, trust the process, and do what you're being asked to do, And again, back to the surrender thing, surrender to it and give yourself over to it. You'd be amazed at how quickly you can move on this path if you'll do that. Now, you can fight it, right? And you can be given the stuff that you're supposed to do and only half-ass it. You can do that, but you're not going to move very fast. Or you can, show up for satsang every week and meditate with me and do one-on-one work with me, but then simultaneously watch all kinds of YouTube videos from other teachers simultaneously, and then come to me with a million questions about, well, what does this mean? And what does this mean? And what does it mean when Muji says this? And what does it mean when, Abraham Hicks says that? And what does it mean when they're talking about the I am presence and doing, decrees, and how does that fit with this? And how much of your time do you want to waste in trying to intellectualize your way out of something that cannot be done through the intellect? And that's what it all comes down to. Far better to sit in the stillness and to just be still and to allow the universe to bring forward the exact things that it is right timing for you to see, than for you to think you're the doer who has to go out and get all the answers, because that's not how it works. It is not how it works. And people really need to latch onto that. It's the really, the internet is an amazing tool, but it is just riddled with misinformation about spirituality. I mean, like really bad, really, really, really bad. And even, and not from an evil place, we started off the conversation talking about good and evil and all that. And maybe some of it is there because, there is purposeful misinformation that's fed into the system to get people to kind of follow a path that isn't of the light, we'll say. But very well-meaning people who are doing different levels of work will utilize their ability to reach people through mass media like YouTube, and then just very innocently spread misinformation to thousands, if not millions of people. And now you got all these people who just listen to so-and-so, an astrologer, say such and such about, your mighty I am presence. And now they have a belief in place about what that means and how I'm working with it or not working with it and all this stuff. And it's like, oh my word, now you come to me and now we have to undo all of it. And understand how difficult it is to undo something that the mind has already taken in, right? If I said to you, I'm trying to think what any example would do, like any example. You're at my house and I say, okay, well, I want you to walk out my door and I want you to walk down to the stop sign at the end of the street and then come back. And so you do it. And I'm like, okay, so what did you do? And you said, well, I walked down to that stop sign and then I came back. And then I said to you, okay, now I want you to forget you ever did it. How? Right?
Mm-hmm.
How? how do I do that? How am I supposed to undo something that now is in here? And that's the danger. The danger is once, and this is I know this is turning into a really long answer to probably a fairly simple question that I lost a long time ago, but it's going there anyway, so we're going to run with it. This is something that's really important, and I have used it like with my children from day one. As soon as you incorporate and introduce something into someone's consciousness, now it's there and it's not going away. Mm-hmm. Is there a reason to keep children shielded from bloody video games? Yes, there is. Is there a reason to keep them shielded from sex and drugs and violence on TV? Yes, there absolutely is. Now, will you hear the argument that, well, you're just, that's unrealistic and you're living in a world that's, but that's not life. And I would say, that's right. Who are we trying to raise here? Are we trying to raise children to grow up to be life as we know it on planet Earth? Or are we trying to raise children of a higher level of consciousness who are going to usher in something better than what this is, right? And so it's the same thing. If you're going to be a seeker, that's awesome. Find your teacher and plant right there and stop all the searching. Just find your teacher for now and just do it, right? 100% dive in and do it. And then at some point, if it feels as though it's time to move on and you really get, and it's not because you're trying to run because they're pushing you to see something you don't want to see, it's because you really have walked that path, then fine, another teacher will come. But until then, give it all over to the one path, right? And stop thinking that you're going to learn your way out of identification, because it's just not like that. How do you unlearn what you've already learned, right? Well, you don't. And so the goal in the path isn't to unlearn everything, right? It's to see through everything, remember? Not to unlearn it. So it's conditioned, patterned consciousness. It's conditioned. You're not going to unlearn the conditioning once it's been placed on it, but you can see through it. And in seeing through it, it loses any, attachment it had to you. Any attachment you had to it, vice versa. But you don't unlearn it. And once it's there, it's there. So, that's a really good lesson for people. And take it seriously. Take it seriously. You don't want to have nightmares? Don't watch scary movies. Right? I mean, like, duh, that's kind of an obvious that we would tell our kids. Right? Do you let your 4-year-old watch, Freddy Krueger movies? I'm guessing not. Why? Because you have an understanding that, well, if I do, now she's got something to relate to as far as this terrifying image that right now she only dreams about unicorns and rainbows right now. But if I introduce that, the picture's going to change and her dreams are going to change. Why would I do that to her? But then we do it to ourselves, don't we? And by the time you're teenagers, you're wanting to go to every scary movie out there. Let's see if I can terrify myself. Oh, what a great idea. Right? What a great idea. So let's see if we can't just put more disturbing images and get them planted into our consciousness. Mm-hmm. But our society functions in such a way that, like, there's something wrong with you if you hold to an idealized view of the world, right? If Maya Angelou, good example. If you went to her home and you swore in her home, she'd kick you out. Because she wasn't having it in her home. Our society says, like, that's like she's got an issue, she's got a problem, and I don't see it that way at all. She had a standard. All right, she held herself to a very high standard and held others to it as well. So if you were going to be in her space, you were going to function at her standard. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is that the collective ego says that's too hard. I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. Why would I want to push myself to do that? I like to be lazy and I like to be complacent. And I like to complain about people like you. Right?
Mm.
So anyone watching this certainly wouldn't have sat through all of that to get to this point if they weren't likely already the person who wants to hold themselves to the higher standard anyway.
Yeah.
So just remember that, everything you put into your own consciousness matters. It really does. It really does. And you are where your mind is. And don't forget that either. Thoughts aren't yours, but simultaneously, while identification is at play, you are where your mind is. So take that very seriously and monitor that. If you find you're in bed with your husband, but your mind is with that guy, you're cheating on your husband. Don't kid yourself into thinking you're not, because you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's going on, it's time to make that right. Now, if that means you need to leave the situation because your heart isn't there, then you need to do that. Or if it means you need to get reseated with your heart here so your mind isn't going someplace else, you need to do that. But either way, what you're doing is a disservice to yourself and to your husband and even to the other one that you're fantasizing about, right? So people need to get very clear with themselves. Hold yourself to a higher standard every day and continue to nurture that, right? There's nothing wrong with you because you want to be better in the world. I applaud you for it, even though the world at large won't. I do. And good for you for trying, because it all has to start there.